Hello, my dear gardeners. Here I am. I'm trying to create the feelings at the back corner of my garden, especially here at the back porch where usually we're having our dinners. It's a special room, the garden room. And the way to emphasize that this is a different room from the rest of the garden would be with the help of entrance area. So I'm trying here to create this entrance from the rest of my garden, coming in between two trees. So in order to emphasize this entrance into a different garden room would be by the help of plants in my case. There are other ways to do it, but here I think that these two spiraeas, which I picked up from Proven Winners, and it is double play artisan spirea, would be a great way to signal that this is the entrance through here into a different room in the garden. So what do we have here? At the back here, we have my beautiful, generous gardener. And just look how lovely it is developing its canopy. We're expecting a generous gardener and all other roses to bloom in a month. So I actually can see all the buds actively fattening and become nice and thick and big. And what I did this year, different to my generous gardener, is I trained extra canes instead of just piling them up into around that arch, which is clearly now is becoming very tight and very small for my mature generous gardener, two of them. And one of them is more than 10 years old and another one is just getting like 4 or 5 years old. So what I did, I moved those canes, one to one side, two to another side, and you see how I adjusted these canes to grow on support here. I'm not sure if it will be a very good structure for the winter, but for now, to display all the blooms, it would be great. And my generous gardener responded very well. All the side shoots are growing with a wonderful speed, building canopy. And oh my gosh, this is going to be a totally different bloom time for my generous gardener. So this area, several years ago, it was just an area of, I called it area of a big yellow blank wall. You come in here and you stare at this yellow wall. I didn't like it. So what I did last year, I built this construction for a rose. And just imagine, this rose here is a Katrina rose and Peggy Martin rose. And just imagine her climbing on this, filling up this space here and blooming. Of course, it's a baby rose. It's her first year. She's somewhat struggling here, I must say, because the sun doesn't reach her very well at the bottom. So I'm encouraging her to quickly pick up her stems and climb to the sun and get more sun during the day. So the plan is that my Katrina rose would be climbing through all the structure. I will train her well, and just imagine the blooms of her here. Wonderful. And then to the right of the structure, I put the trellis to secure generous gardener canes, and at the same time it created some sort of a nice backdrop, hiding the yellow wall a little bit, you know. Here in this spot I planted Mr. Honeyberry, and Mr. Honeyberry is very hardy. I think it believes hardy to zone 2. So in case I don't have time to plant him out in the winter, I can leave him in the pot and he would be very happy. This plant would be very happy to overwinter. And you know what happened to this Mr. Honeyberry? Well, Honeyberry has male and female plants, and you need 2 of them to have successful pollination and berries in the garden. And since I come from the family in Ukraine where we would regularly go into the forest foraging, I love foraging, and I want my kids to have the same experience in the garden for them, so they can go outside and pick a berry here, pick a little raspberry there, strawberry here. So last year I bought Mr. and Mrs. Honeyberry and I planted them at the front of my garden. And because we had such a drought, severe drought last summer, those 2 plants I thought died. Actually, they went into hibernation. And this year, early in the season, I decided, okay, I'm not going to bet that those plants will come back. I really want honeyberries in my garden, so I'm buying a set of Mr. and Mrs. Honeyberry again. So I did, and guess what? My honeyberries at the front are flourishing away. So I ended up with 4 plants, a set of 2 in the front and a set of 2 at the back. Mrs. Honeyberry is not planted yet. Mr. Honeyberry ended up in the pot, but Mrs. Honeyberry, she needs sun, so I have to figure out where I'm planting her here under our evergreen tree. So other 2 pots are dedicated to Autumn Joy sedum, which I replanted, and look, sedum is doing fine. And another one also a replant this year. It is Nepeta Six Hills Giant, and it is a very, the plant which spills all over and takes over the neighbors. So that guy is going to be in the pot right there, and doing good, looking good, ready to blossom in several weeks. So this area, what I wanted to do, I wanted to make sure when people step into this back patio, through these 2 apple trees, they know that this is a different garden room. And garden rooms, the notion of garden rooms was developed at in the middle of the 19th century. Before that, gardens were very functional. I grew up in a very functional garden. I would walk through the rows of tomatoes and potatoes and parsley and turnips to no end. It was a very functional garden of my parents in Ukraine. But as a decorative garden, especially a small garden space, will greatly benefit if you will create different rooms. And the way to tell ourselves that we are entering a different room would be through the entryway. So this is what I'm trying to do here with the help of my double play spirea. I'm planting one on this side and another on that side. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to either find very large slabs, concrete slabs or something natural looking. And I will put like stepping stones here. That would be another, in a way, direction to show that this is another room where we have our dinners. And since my Katrina rose is growing, hopefully in 2 years that yellow wall will be all covered in rose blossoms and rose foliage. Double play spirea is very easy to care in the garden. It's pest-free, disease-free, and deers and rabbits don't like it. And since this is the area where rabbits are going through, I wanted to make sure that nothing here is going to suffer from rabbits' teeth. So spirea, this particular spirea is creating these nice burgundy fresh spring shoots, and I like them. They look interesting in the garden, especially in spring when there is not much of excitement. There is a lot of greenery in the garden, at least in my garden. I think this would be a nice touch here near my apple trees. Spirea can live in full sun, partial shade, and here the shade would be partial from the canopy of apples. And I think they will be doing good. This spirea doesn't reach a very tall height. It keeps its mounding shape of 2.5 feet wide, 2.5 feet tall. And I think I will have no problems growing spirea in my garden. Also, it's fairly drought resistant. So here we go. I'm going to plant this baby on this side and another spirea on another side. Oh, little roots tangled, so we will ease them out to encourage them to grow in different directions, not just stuck and grow around. A little bit too low. I'm going to build a little ring from soil around the root zone of my spirea and water it well. And you know what? Eventually, I'm planning to turn on all this area under apple tree into grass-free flower bed. And by the way, this little guy, is hydrangea, mop-head hydrangea, which was given to me by my brother and sister-in-law. And it was just one of those, gift hydrangeas, which are not supposed to live long in the garden. But I kept it going, and this year it woke up from the winter sleep, and it is doing fine. So I'm not sure how tall this hydrangea will be, but eventually, hydrangeas are tall, 3-4 feet tall. So this space eventually will be occupied by different plants, signaling the entrance into a new room in my garden. When I water my plants, sometimes I have a feeling that I drink myself. I just imagine how much relief I give to plants with water, especially during dry season when they are thirsty. And just in case my kids are playing soccer here, I'm going to use these growing supports to protect my spiraeas from any flying objects in my garden, Well, of course you can't really protect it, but hey, this will probably do the job. I like it so far. Eventually my boxwoods will fill in. These are little babies, looking babies now, but they are several years old already. I bought them as real babies, 18 months little sticks, and eventually they will fill in. And this area we would not be able to walk probably through here, which is fine with me. We will walk through the entrance into the back patio, and the view, the entrance is framed. I like it. I'm not sure what my kids are going to say about it, but I like this idea. And the fact that these spireas are maintenance-free, disease-free, and rabbits are not eating them is a beautiful double bonus. Happy gardening. See you in my next video.